How are you all?
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you all for joining us for today's A Month of Service presentation. My name is Nia Murray. I am Programs Coordinator with Neighborhood Recovery Community Development Corporation, and we are one of the partners in the A Month of Service collaboration. Also included in the partnership is the City of Houston's Department of Neighborhoods, and joining us today is Ms. Myra Hippolyte. And on behalf of our partner with the Houston Bar Association, our presenter for today is Ms. Molly Abshire with Wright Abshire Attorneys. Also presenting today is the Harris County Area Agency on Aging and being represented by Ms. Rose Ortega. But also included in the partnership is Lone Star Legal Aid, the Earl Carl Institute, Houston Volunteer Lawyers, Harris County Appraisal District, and Harris County Tax Assessor and Collector's Office. And together we all make up A Month of Service. And basically, just to give you a quick little rundown, A Month of Service, again, is a collaboration of these 8 different organizations that come together on a monthly basis and offer a variety of workshops, resources, and information to the community in regards to asset building, asset protection, maintaining of generational wealth, and community empowerment. We came together several years ago wanting to create a larger impact since we all pretty much have the same mission and same goal in mind, and we service the exact same community. So we thought what better way than to create that impact than to come together and to collaborate. So we're here today as part of the Community Empowerment Series to provide you guys with information about Medicare versus Medicaid and open enrollment. We know that open enrollment season is coming up shortly, and Medicare, Medicaid, that's been an ongoing kind of issue for a lot of our seniors in our community that frankly find the whole process to be a little bit confusing, to tell you the truth, even for myself. And even people that are a whole lot younger than me get confused on Medicare and Medicaid and open enrollment and how it works and what's covered, and so many different plans and things that are out there. Not sure about what it is that they're supposed to choose and what they're supposed to do, and so on and so forth. So we wanted to make sure that you guys get the information directly from experts that can assist and answer questions for you. We want to give the disclaimer that information that is provided here today is for informational purposes only. It is not considered legal advice. However, we do encourage you to reach out to our legal service partners and to get the assistance of Harris County Area Agency on Aging if you guys find that you are in need of any civil legal matter or in need of those resources offered by the agency. So please keep in mind, we want you guys to be as interactive as you possibly can. And if you're watching us on Facebook, please feel free to type whatever questions that you have into the chat or the comment section, and we will go over the questions aloud at the end of the presentation. In addition to that, we want to try to protect your privacy as much as we possibly can. So ask that you try to keep your questions to be as general in nature as you can, as the session is being recorded as well as being broadcast live on our social media platform at Amos Houston TX. Just kind of keep that in mind so that you don't, all your personal detail information that getting out there for everybody else to see or hear and have access to. As mentioned, the session is being recorded. We will send out a link of this session for you to go back to review again, to possibly share with other relatives, neighbors, coworkers, or whomever you know that may find this information to be beneficial as well. So with that being said, we are going to move right on into our introductions. We'll have Ms. Myra, you can introduce yourself. Ms. Rose, we'll have you introduce yourself first, and then Ms. Molly, you can introduce yourself, and then you can go right on into your presentation, Ms. Molly. So go right ahead, Myra.
Thanks, Ms. Mia. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Myra Hippolyte, and I work with the Houston Department of Neighborhoods under the direction of Division Manager Aldring. On behalf of Mayor Sylvester Turner and Director Takasha Francis, we want to welcome you to the Month of Service partnership. This collaboration is all about giving back for the information to the Houston, Harris County, state of Texas community. We want to make sure that whenever you're going through a stressor, and you know what, a stressor you can go through every day. There's different things going on in everyone's lives. We're moving and we're going continuously. But whenever you're going through a a specific type of stressor that you feel like, heck, I need this information. I need to know what step 1, 2, 3, 4 to get my process going or started. That's what the month of service is all about. We want to make sure that we have professionals that are giving you free advice, and it's not legal advice, it's information. So we want to make sure that you don't say, well, Myra and Nia told us we have to do 1, 2, 3, 4. No, because Myra and Nia are not the professionals. But we do have experts that know all the information that you need to make the right decisions. But at the same time, it's not legal advice. Everything that we're giving you is for informational purposes only. Guys, we want to let you know that you're not alone in this world. Through any stresses that you're going through, you have a team of partners that are standing right by your side. And of course, like Nia and I like to say, we're not holding your hand, but we are walking right by your side with the free information. And it takes for you to come in and join us as a team member to get educated in the process. Guys, thanks so much. Have a great day. And you know what? Today it's a beautiful day. I was just looking outside and I was like, ooh, I can breathe, I can enjoy, and just you have experts today that is going to give you a lot of information. Thanks, guys. Have a great day. And thanks, Miss Nia.
Ms. Rose?
Yes, good afternoon. Thanks for inviting us. I'm a lead senior counselor for the Harris County Area Agency on Aging. We are part of the City of Houston Health Department. We are located, or the AAA call center is located at 9250 Kirby. We transitioned from Stadium to Kirby, and later on during our presentation, we'll share our contact information as well. But and I'll be presenting regarding Medicare open enrollment. So thank you.
Okay, Ms. Abshire?
Yeah, so I am Molly Deere Abshire. I'm an attorney here in Houston, Texas, and I am double board certified in elder law as well as estate planning and probate. And so today I will be presenting from an elder law attorney's perspective, the difference between Medicaid and Medicare and how it might affect the seniors in your community. Can everyone see my screen?
No, not yet.
Okay. Can we see it now?
Now,
Okay,
yes.
perfect. Okay, great. Thank you. So the scope of my presentation today we'll talk a little bit about Medicare and Medicaid, a little bit about financing long-term care, and really a public benefits overview. So my presentation isn't geared toward all the Medicaid programs that are out there that we have at our fingertips, but really the Medicaid programs that might most affect those who are seniors and how they may access that type of eligibility. So when you wonder, what does an elder law attorney do, and how does someone who's in private practice like I am step into the role of being able to give advice in regard to these public benefits programs? So, really one of the reasons that clients come to see me is to find out how to finance long-term care. So in that discussion, we'll come up with, talking about the different benefits that are out there or that my clients might be eligible for. So at any given time, we might be assisting in helping a client qualify for public benefits, those that are means tested. We might be giving advice in regard to eligibility for aid and attendance, for VA. We might be talking about becoming eligible for long-term care Medicaid. So it's really meeting the client at that juncture when they know that they've got a circumstance where they do not have enough funds to pay for their long-term care, and looking for the available governmental benefits that are out there. So I still do estate planning and a lot of probate and guardianship and all those other things that an elderly client might need. But a big part of my practice is focusing on public benefits. So it might affect a parent who has a child with disabilities who's looking for public benefits. It might affect someone in that sandwich generation where they're caring for their children, but they're also caring for older parents and looking for ways to help them maximize their benefit. So the first thing that we're going to talk about today a little bit is just the demographics about financing long-term care and why that is so important to those that are in the community. At any given time, over a quarter of our U.S. population is disabled. And of those that are disabled, there's 18% that are severely disabled and rely on governmental benefits to provide for their basic needs. So these numbers are increasing every year. So the need for planning for public benefits is definitely growing. When we talk about ways to finance long-term care, when we're in the community and we're looking at the benefits that are out there, whether we're looking at Medicare or Medicaid, there are basically just three ways to finance long-term care. So when we've got an elderly person who's in the community and needing that type of care, they're either going to be privately paying or looking at long-term care insurance or looking at public benefits. And we talk about public benefits, whether we're in Texas or really any of our 50 states, there are really just three public benefit programs that are out there that help seniors finance this type of care. It's either Medicare, Medicaid, or VA benefits. And when we're looking at that population, there's really a continuum of care. So it could be that the needs change as people age, their healthcare needs increase. They have maybe a need for care at home, and so they're just private paying on an hourly basis or with a split shift with different workers coming in during the day, but paying out of their pocket as they go along. Or perhaps as that continuum of care increases, they might find themselves in an independent living facility or a personal care home or maybe an assisted living, which are all types of housing options that are paid for out of pocket. Or they may find themselves in need of true nursing care. And if that's the situation, then we are able to look at governmental benefits that might help them finance that type of care. So when we talk about private pay options, we're just paying as we're going. Independent living, personal care homes, assisted living facilities, those are all types of facilities that just accept private pay, meaning that you're not looking at a governmental benefit that might pay for those. Many of my clients come in and they do have some type of long-term care insurance, and we're a big proponent of that. But many of the clients who come to see me, the need has arisen, but they can't qualify for that type of insurance. Either the premiums are cost prohibitive or they're past the age of insurability, and or they maybe mistakenly believe that Medicare would cover their long-term care needs. And now we're looking for that type of coverage, and it's just not available either because it's cost prohibitive or because they've aged out of eligibility for coverage. There are some ethical issues in this type of practice, and it would also probably bleed over to those that you all are talking to in the community. And that's, when we're giving this type of advice, determining who the client is. So who are we trying to help here? I think most of the time when people come in, it's not always the elderly client that we end up talking to. And that's probably somewhat your scenario as well. It could be their children or their grandchildren who are coming to you and saying, hey, I need advice in regard to which type of Medicare to enroll my family member in. I need to know my loved one is in the hospital and they're about to enter into discharge. They're being discharged into the community, into a SNF unit, and how do we pay for that? So identifying who the client is and making sure that the advice that you're giving isn't going to be used to fraudulently misrepresent or misappropriate the funds of the person you're trying to help. Another part of what we do is just assessing the client capacity. Do they have the ability to make the decisions that they need to make, and then providing diligent representation. So there's case law out there for attorneys that if you just took the position that I'm not going to help that particular individual become eligible for that means-tested governmental benefit program because of your own political persuasion or your value system, that you think perhaps that person should pay for their own way, or they shouldn't look for ways to preserve their assets. there's case law out there that for attorneys, at least, that can be malpractice. So really, as an attorney, your job is to give your client all the options, the myriad of options that are out there. And if they need to, look further to find a way to preserve assets, then that's what you've been tasked with. And of course, we do worry, and I just had a case that came in last week in regard to giving advice by non-attorneys, telling, just because you have knowledge, telling an individual, oh, all you need to do to qualify for that program is X, Y, and Z. And then if you're not an attorney, giving that legal advice and perhaps practicing law without a license, that's something that we always want to be wary of. So let's talk a little bit about public benefits. All public benefits, whether we're looking at Medicare or Medicaid or being dually eligible for both programs, whether we're trying to become eligible for a VA benefit or a long-term care benefit, all benefit programs fall into two categories: means tested and non-means tested. So when we talk about means, what does that mean? Well, means is defined as income and resources, and tested is defined as, do we exceed the statutory maximums for that program? So if we know that all governmental benefits fall into these two categories, where do Medicaid and Medicare fall? Well, a means tested program, again, is looking very carefully at the assets and the income level of the person who's trying to qualify for the program. So that means there's always going to be caps in regard to, we can't be over a certain income limit or we're not eligible, or we can't be over a certain countable asset limit or we're not eligible for the program. If it's a non-means tested program, then it doesn't matter what the client's assets are. They could be a millionaire or a billionaire and they would still be eligible for that particular program. So for our purposes today, when we talk about Medicaid, that is a means tested governmental benefit program. When we talk about Medicaid, you'll think supplemental security income. It's also known by its acronym SSI. That is a means tested type of governmental benefit program. Another one are VA benefits. So if it's a non-service connected disability compensation, where we had a veteran who served during wartime and now he's below the income and asset test and he can be eligible for this type of compensation, then that's a means tested governmental benefit program. So means tested, think Medicaid. A non-means tested program, an example of that would be Medicare. So it doesn't matter, what our asset level is, we automatically qualify for that program because we worked and paid into the system, or we're married to someone who worked and paid into the system. So when we think Medicare, think retirement Social Security benefits, Social Security disability insurance, or SSDI for someone who's under full retirement age, or a VA benefit, someone who receives a benefit because they were disabled during wartime service. So they have a service-connected disability pension. Those are all types of non-means tested programs. So getting back to the means tested program and Medicaid, one of the most common Medicaid programs is Supplemental Security Income, or SSI. It's a federal cash assistance program, and it has an income cap to it, or an income limit to it. So the federal cash assistance program, if we're receiving the maximum monthly cash assistance in the year 2022, if we're an individual, the maximum that we might receive from SSI is $841. And if it's a couple, it's $1,261. Not everyone who's on SSI receives that maximum amount. It could be that you're only receiving a partial SSI, and maybe the rest of your monthly income comes from Social Security disability. But keep in mind, if you are receiving more than this $841 a month, that's a clue that makes us realize that this client is not receiving SSI, rather they're receiving some other type of monthly cash income. Maybe they're receiving $900 a month or $1,000 a month. That would be a clue that the individual is over the cap, the income cap for SSI, or supplemental security income, and therefore they're likely receiving some type of non-means tested income, like retirement Social Security or Social Security disability insurance income. So to be eligible for this type of governmental benefit, the individual has to be age 65 or older, or blind or disabled. They have to be a U.S. citizen or qualified alien. They can't be a resident of a public institution. And there also are income and resource limitations to become eligible. So the other little tricky thing that you want to remember about SSI is that Texas is what's known as an SSI state. That means if you receive $1 of SSI income in the state of Texas, then you automatically qualify for Medicaid benefits in Texas. So that means that Medicaid is a means-tested governmental benefit program. SSI is a means-tested governmental benefit program, and they're linked. $1 of SSI means we automatically qualify for Medicaid. So when we're out there in the community and we're giving counsel or advice to individuals, and we know that if they don't at least receive this $1 of SSI benefit, so if they're over the asset test or they're receiving income that's too high for SSI, it's going to knock them out of that Medicaid benefit, and that may be the most important thing to them, because that may be the one way that they are able to access healthcare. Now, on the flip side of that, if we're not receiving SSI income and we're a younger disabled person, then perhaps we're receiving Social Security Disability Insurance income. It's also known by its acronym SSDI, and it is a monthly cash assistance program for qualified individuals. The eligibility is determined by the work history. So to be eligible for SSDI, if we find ourselves disabled, we must have worked an appropriate number of quarters. We must have attained an appropriate number of work credits to be eligible for the program. And you also have to prove that you're disabled. So you were disabled before the age of 65, and you have to meet the disability criteria, that the disability that you have is preventing you from doing any work, and that it is a long-term disability, meaning that it's not short-term in nature. Long-term means it's likely to last longer than a year. And so an individual who's eligible for SSDI, if they've been receiving this benefit for 2 years, they're going to link up to Medicare. So just like SSI linked up to Medicaid, SSDI links up to Medicare benefits, but you don't get it automatically. You get it only after you've been receiving your SSDI cash assistance for 24 months or for 2 years. SSDI and Medicare are not means tested. It doesn't matter how wealthy you are or what your income level is. You automatically qualify for that program because you are disabled and you've worked and paid into the system. So the big takeaway here that I want you to know well and be able to take back out into the community and into your program that you're running is that Medicare and Medicaid are not interchangeable programs. Medicare is a health insurance plan for people who are disabled or who are retired. It's not means tested, so it doesn't matter what your asset and income level is to qualify for the program. It's the fact that you worked and paid into the system, or someone that you're related to worked and paid into the system. Medicaid encompasses many different programs that can assist with housing. It can assist with adaptive aids. It can assist with therapies of all sorts, or healthcare. And Medicaid is primarily eligible for a person who has needs and meets that low income and low resource requirement. So let's talk a little bit more about Medicare. Medicare, when you think Medicare, I want you to think federal health insurance program. So you're eligible for Medicare when you either are receiving SSDI and younger than the age of 65, and you've been receiving SSDI for 2 years or 24 months, or you have turned the magic age of 65 and you've become eligible for Medicare just by having the work history and aging into the system. Just like any benefit program or federal health insurance program, it's based on a health insurance model, meaning that there are lifetime limits to the benefits that are paid out. There's no long-term care benefit to Medicare. And many of my clients who come to see me who are contemplating how to finance long-term care, they're pre-planners, they're looking into the future, like, how do we pay for this? Some are shocked to find out that there is not a long-term care benefit with Medicare. Medicare has some long-term care coverage. If you're in a hospital and you've been discharged to a skilled nursing facility, Medicare will pay for a number of days, and we'll perhaps talk about that in a little bit. But there's no true long-term care coverage there. There's no, there's no sitter services or home health care that's on a permanent nature with Medicare as well. It's not means tested, so it doesn't matter that if we're wealthy or poor. And the annual enrollment period, if we're already enrolled, is between October 15th and December 7th of each year. So that's for people who've already enrolled in Medicare, and they are then eligible to make changes to their Medicare benefits at that time. If it's the initial enrollment period, then the initial enrollment period is as you approach that magic age of 65. So that is ongoing depending on that individual's birth date. So then when they turn 65, then that's going to be their initial enrollment period. And everyone should be aware of that date, even if they're working and insured by some other means, like a group health insurance. They should be aware of that because perhaps they want to go ahead and enroll in the Medicare program. When we talk about Medicare, there are 4 parts to it. So Part A, Part B, Part C, and Part D. So for Medicare, Part A are inpatient services, home health benefits, a hospice benefit, and a limited skilled nursing facility benefit. Part B are the doctor charges. So Part B, we go to the doctor, we use Medicare Part B, and it pays for a portion of that coverage. Part C is the Medicare Advantage HMO program. So it's it's a way to opt out of traditional Medicare and receive your Medicare benefits in an alternative manner. So it's an alternative to traditional Medicare, Part C. So Medicare HMO, we'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. Part D is the voluntary drug plan portion of Medicare. So not everyone has to be enrolled in Part D if they want drug plan coverage under Medicare. Then there's a premium for that, and it is changing depending on the plan that you're on. So a little bit more about Part A. When you think Part A, think hospital insurance. It's an entitlement that's available to all insured workers. It's for inpatient services. There are 90 days per spell of illness for the Medicare recipient, plus a lifetime reserve day of 60 days of hospital care. So in regard to limits on Medicare hospital coverage, there are definitely limits to it. So it's the 90 days per spell of illness, plus these additional lifetime reserve days that you can use as needed or access as needed. And there's a limit to that, 60 days of hospital care. The deductible for 2022 is $1,556 per the benefit period. There's a copayment of $389 a day for day 61 through day 90 of hospitalization, and $778 per lifetime reserve day up to that maximum of 60 days for days 91 through day 150 while you're in the hospital. So just like any health insurance plan, there are lifetime limits to benefits with Medicare. There are co-payments with Medicare. There are premiums associated with Medicare. There are many costs associated with Medicare that do add up for our retired workers. So also under Part A with Medicare are home health care services. And home health care services are usually issued by the doctor after a spell of illness, or if the doctor finds that it would be beneficial for his patient to receive a physical therapy or occupational therapy or speech therapy or help with the wound care or help with the breathing treatment. But usually those home health care services are in and out, meaning that the nurse or the therapist will come in, do the thing that needs to happen, and then go out. And it's never ordered indefinitely. There's always an end to it. Home health care services might last for 30 days or 60 days, and then the doctor would need to re-up that prescription for home health care services. It is a great way for information to get back to the doctor, because typically the home health care worker is going to report back and let the doctor know how the patient is doing. And the goal is to keep their health at an attainable level. So it's physical therapy so they can continue to be healthy, or they can reach an attainable level where they can still be independent and at home. But it's not sitter services, and it's not something that's going to go on and on indefinitely. Part A also includes hospice services. If the Medicare recipient is at the end of their life, they could receive hospice services at home. They could receive hospice services in a long-term care facility. They could receive hospice services in an inpatient hospice center. And when one is on hospice and they're receiving that type of care, hospice is typically not paying the room and board, meaning that if you're receiving hospice at home, then you're not getting cash assistance to help pay with your bills there. If you're receiving hospice services while you're in independent living or assisted living or a nursing facility, hospice is not paying the room and board there. You're either paying out of pocket or you're looking for another governmental benefit to pay for that type of coverage. Hospice is not really paying room and board, I suppose, unless you're in an inpatient hospice facility at the very last days of your life. And then Part A also pays for a limited nursing home benefit. So if you're in a hospital for 3 nights and on Medicare, and you've been discharged to a skilled nursing facility or a rehab facility, then Medicare will pay for up to 100 days in that skilled nursing facility if all the requirements are met. So it has to be skilled care and not just custodial care. You have to have had the 3-day hospital stay, not counting the day of discharge, so 3 nights in the hospital to qualify for it. And Medicare only pays as long as you are continuing to improve, haven't reached a plateau, or as long as you are participating in therapy. So not everyone gets those full 100 days. In fact, day 1 through day 20 is paid for 100% by traditional Medicare. And day 21 through day 100, there's a copayment for these skilled nursing days. And it's $194.50 a day in the year 2022. But if you have a Medicare supplement policy, a Medigap insurance policy, in addition to your Medicare coverage, then that will usually pick up that copayment for day 21 through day 100. So you could have up to a full 100 days after a 3-day hospital stay or 3-night hospital stay through Medicare skilled nursing benefit, as long as you're continuing to improve, haven't reached a plateau, and are participating in therapy. So you don't always get the full 100 days. So an individual, if they've had a heart attack and they go to rehab, they may only get through day 36 or through day 25 or through day 41. And maybe if you had a stroke or something that's more debilitating, that's going to take more therapy to work through, then you might get more closer to those full 100 days. So again, you've got coverage, Medicare Part A, in the hospital, through hospice, the home health care benefit, and now this limited nursing home benefit. And if you're discharged home after that 3-night hospital stay, you could still have the skilled nursing days, but the admission into skilled nursing has to occur within 30 days after that discharge from the hospital. So let's talk a little bit about Part B of Medicare. That's the medical insurance portion of Medicare. And for this portion, there is a standard monthly premium that has to be paid for. And the monthly premium is deducted from, typically from the Social Security check of the Medicare recipient. The standard monthly premium for this year is $170.10. And you'll find if you start following Medicare benefits that standard monthly premium goes up every single year. Now, there are benefit programs, additional benefit programs that are called Medicare Extra Help. And they do, if the income is low enough for the Medicare recipient, there are programs that pay for extra help with this monthly premium, meaning that the standard monthly premium for Part B Medicare. If you're on extra help, if you qualify for that, then it may lower the standard monthly premium all the way down to zero. There are some people who have very low income and assets, and they could actually qualify for a program where the Medicare Part B premium is zero. So there wouldn't be anything deducted from their Social Security check. But for the majority of Medicare recipients, they will be paying $170.10, and it's deducted from their Social Security check. There also is a surcharge for individuals who were high income earners for the previous tax year, and their standard monthly premium could be over $170. It might be $250 or $300 if they are high income earners and eligible for Medicare benefits. So for very high earners, there's an additional monthly premium. The standard amount is $170.10 a month. And then for individuals who have very low income and low assets or few assets, then they could have some extra help, and it's sort of a sliding scale depending on which extra help program they might qualify for. Their monthly premium is going to be much less. So what does Part B pay for? Part B pays for doctor services. It pays for additional home health care services, diagnostic tests, medical equipment, ambulance services on a limited basis, outpatient physical and speech therapy, and it can also pay for certain limited prescription drugs and preventative services. That typically change a little from year to year. So that's our Part B. Part C, remember, is the Medicare Advantage program. So if you are on Medicare Part B, you typically are going to be paying this monthly premium every month. And if you want full coverage, you're also, in addition to that monthly premium that's deducted from your Social Security check, you are also likely going to go into the open market and buy a Medigap insurance policy, an insurance policy that pays for the portion that Medicare Part B doesn't pay for. And that's going to have a premium to it. And it's going to be a sliding scale depending upon your age and depending on which plan Medigap insurance policy plan you decide to enroll in. And that's called traditional Medicare. So Medicare Part A, Medicare Part B, and then also getting that Medigap insurance policy to make sure you're fully covered. That's what we traditionally call people. We call that traditional Medicare if you're enrolled in those types of services. Now, there are individuals who decide to be on Medicare Part A and Medicare Part B and not have a supplement. It could be because they have low income or low assets and they're on that extra help program and it's going to pick up 100% of the coverage, or it could be that they're just very, very healthy and they just never opted to buy that Medigap insurance policy because it in itself, your Medigap insurance premium might be anywhere from $200 a month to $385 a month, depending on the plan that you've decided to enroll in. And some seniors find that is cost prohibitive because, they're paying for Part B and there's a cost to that. And then they're paying for their Medigap insurance plan and there's a cost to that. And then there's two of them if it's a husband and a wife or a spousal case. And so you can see if they're on a fixed income, that could be very expensive. And so there is an alternative to that traditional Medicare coverage, and that would be in this Medicare Advantage plan or Part C. It's an alternative to traditional Medicare. So it's a way to contain costs, to keep costs down lower. And the plan acts very much like an HMO or a PPO. It's not a Medicare supplement plan. It's not the same thing as having Medigap insurance because it's an alternative to traditional Medicare and Medigap insurance. It's a different type of plan. So Medicare Advantage programs or plans cover all services covered by traditional Medicare except for hospice, and some, depending on which plan you choose to go with, have additional coverage such as limited dental care or a benefit for hearing loss or for prescription drug benefits, or sometimes even wellness programs. They differ wildly from different geographical areas. There might be one Medicare Advantage plan that's offered here in Houston that's not offered in East Texas, or a different Medicare Advantage plan that's offered in Arizona or Florida that's not offered here in Texas. So they do vary. From geographical areas. Not everyone is eligible for the same Medicare Advantage program, and they change from year to year. And again, when we have that open enrollment period from October 15th to December 7th each year, that would be a chance for our clients and our friends and our loved ones to take a look at their plan and determine if they can afford what they're on, or if some change needs to happen, and if they want to opt out of traditional Medicare and perhaps onto Medicare Advantage, or if Medicare Advantage has not worked so well for them, perhaps they want to opt out of Medicare Advantage and get back on to traditional Medicare and purchase a Medigap insurance policy again. So we've talked about Part A, Part B, Part C, and now Part D. It's the voluntary drug plan. And so this plan has been around for a while. The standard benefit package for 2022 includes a drug plan that's going to have a monthly premium to it, depending on which plan you choose to go with. And what I tell clients to do is they can go to the Social Security or Medicare website, and there's a portion of that computer program that you can put in your prescriptions that you're on that year, because of course those change from month to month or from year to year. So you put in those prescriptions that you're in, and it will kick out or spit out or let you know what the best Part D plans would be for you and the particular prescriptions that you're on. And so many times when clients come to see me, husband and wife might be, or each spouse might be on the same Medigap insurance policy. They might both have an ARC policy, or they might both have an Aetna policy, or a Blue Cross Blue Shield, or a Mutual of Omaha. They might have decided to go the same way. Even if they're the same age, it could be that their premiums are really very close together or matched. But one might be on one drug plan, like with Humana, and the other one might be on a different plan entirely, just dependent on what their particular prescriptions are. So we know that with the drug plan, they just are able to get on the one that makes the most sense for them. The initial coverage limit of coverage is $4,430 a year. The out-of-pocket threshold for 2022 is $7,050. So once they get past that amount, where they've paid that amount annually, or that year, that $7,000 threshold coverage, then the catastrophic coverage portion of the benefit kicks in, and there just would be a small copayment for each of their drugs for the rest of the year. So everyone's donut hole or catastrophic coverage portion of that benefit happens at a different time for them, depending on how high their drug costs are. Some client might meet the catastrophic coverage portion in April of the year. Another client might not meet the catastrophic coverage portion until the fall. And then for the rest of the year, they would enjoy that small copayment for those drugs that they're on. And then, of course, they'd have their open enrollment and decide if they want to tweak their plan or not for the Part D. And of course, the premiums are going to go up probably every year. And maybe some drugs are going to come onto formulary or fall off formulary. And so they'll want to look at that each year and make sure that that drug plan does make sense for them. And just like Medicare Part B premium, there are subsidies that are also available if the client is low income or has few assets that could help subsidize this Part D coverage as well. And it, again, is strictly voluntary. If they really are not on many prescriptions at all, or their prescription costs are very low because maybe they're on generics, then they may decide not to do a drug plan at all. And it's just something, again, that they should look at each year, because their health situation changes from year to year, and the prescriptions that they have change from year to year. So this is a big thing that they want to look at annually. So we talked a little bit about Medicare supplement insurance. Medicare supplement insurance, again, I call it Medigap insurance. It's private health insurance that supplements the Part B costs that Medicare doesn't cover. So the Medigap plans help pay Medicare deductibles, they help pay Medicare copays and Medicare premiums. Without a Medigap policy, if you're on traditional Medicare, you're just not 100% insured under Medicare because there are these kind of massive copayments if you get sick. So really, to be fully insured under traditional Medicare, you would have Part A, Part B, a Medigap insurance plan that you're going to pay for out of your pocket. And then also, if you're a Part D plan, that's the drug coverage. The choice of provider is up to the client, but the plans are government regulated, meaning that you can't be, oh, I'm so sick, I won't be able to get a Medigap insurance policy. Well, that's not how it works. They're government regulated, so everyone would be eligible for some type of plan, but the premiums could vary widely. So the Medigap insurance or the Medicare supplement insurance is required to provide core services. So they do have hospitalization copays for that day 61 through day 90. And they have there was a big daily cost to the lifetime days that might get paid under Part A. And so they're going to be doing the copay for that. And I think it was over $700 a day for that. So they would help with the lifetime costs. They would also have coverage for the first 3 pints of blood that the patient might need. And they would pick up the 20% copay for Medicare approved procedures that are paid under Part B. So if we don't have this Medigap insurance, we're always going to have this 20% copay under Medicare Part B. And then since June of 2010, hospice Part A coinsurance is paid at 100% with our Medicare supplement insurance policy. So again, this slide just helps us solidify the difference between being on a Medicare Advantage plan versus being on a Medigap plan, because this is one of the places that the client can get really confused really quickly. And if you are out there giving advice or you're the one that is going to be making this decision, you need to know the difference between the two. So a Medicare Advantage plan, that's Medicare Part C, is a different way to get Medicare. So rather than opting into traditional Medicare or original Medicare, it's opting out of that and onto a Medicare Advantage plan. Medicare Advantage plan replaces your traditional Medicare benefits, usually almost always for a lower cost than what you would be paying for your Medicare Part B premium. Remember, that's $170.10 a month that's deducted from your Social Security. Plus the Medigap insurance policy premium that might cost anywhere from $200 to $350 or even more. It's getting rid of those costs and instead hopping on to a Medicare Advantage plan that is rolled together and has a much lower monthly cost. A Medigap insurance plan, on the other hand, supplements traditional Medicare. So for Medigap insurance policy holders, you're going to have Medicare Part A, Medicare Part B that you're going to pay for, and a Medigap insurance plan, and then perhaps even a Part D plan as well. Any questions about Medicare or the parts thereof before I move on to Medicaid?
There aren't any in the chat.
Okay. Well, then let's talk a little bit with our remaining time about Medicaid benefits, because in my practice, this is what clients get most confused about. They'll come in and say, I'm on Medicaid, and you start talking to them and you realize, oh, they're really not, they're just on Medicare. Or clients will say, well, when I'm on Medicare, my long-term care needs will be met. Well, no, Medicare doesn't pay for long-term care. Medicaid is the benefit program that typically pays for long-term care. So it's a good thing if you are the administrator of a program, or you are a volunteer, or you work in this industry, or you work with the community or with the elder population, that you have a very strong grasp on the difference between Medicare and Medicaid. So when we think Medicaid, you're going to think it's a jointly federal and state funded programs for medical services, whereas Medicare is the same in all 50 states. Medicaid can vary greatly from state to state. So Texas's Medicaid program may be different from Louisiana's, may be different from California's. Everyone is going to run their Medicaid program differently, and they may even call it by a different name in the different state. So states administer Medicaid 3 different ways. They use at least one disability criteria that's more restrictive than SSI to become eligible for the program. That means that you'd have to become eligible for SSI on a federal level and then also have a different eligibility program or way to access Medicaid on the state level. Or if you are like Texas, then if you're eligible for $1 of SSI benefit here in Texas, then we say, fine, you're eligible for community Medicaid. So the state is determining eligibility for SSI and thus Medicaid. Or then there's another program that some other states that use SSI eligibility, and they say, fine, if you're eligible for $1 of SSI, then you're eligible for Medicaid, but we're going to let Social Security Administration determine eligibility. Again, all Medicaid benefit programs, unlike Medicare, are means-tested benefits. That means that the government is looking, or the agency that runs that Medicaid program is looking very carefully at the asset and income levels of the recipient to see if they're eligible for that particular program. And when we think Medicaid services, think skilled nursing facility. Medicaid can pay for that. Medicaid can pay for hospital, both inpatient and outpatient services. Medicaid can pay for doctor services, physical therapy, prescriptions, emergency care, home and community services, community supportive living arrangements like group homes, personal care services. There are programs that pay for nursing in homes. There are case management services. There are programs that pay for different other types of attendant care for the elderly and the disabled in the home. And they're also, remember when we alluded to the extra help programs with Medicare, that there are some Medicare recipients who have low income and few assets, and they can apply for a program through Medicaid that helps pick up their Medicare premiums and costs and copays. Well, this is that program. It's called the Medicare Cost Sharing Program, and it's for low income Medicare beneficiaries. And these programs vary according to income, but they are Medicaid programs that help pay for deductibles, premiums, and copays of Medicare. So instead of having to pay that Medigap insurance policy, or instead of having to pay the copay each month or pay for the premium even of Medicare, depending on what the client's income and asset levels are, it could be that they're eligible automatically for the full benefit without any copay. That's something very important that we want to make sure that our clients know about. Now, let's focus a little bit on eligibility requirements for long-term care Medicaid, because you may be getting questions about this from the community and from those that you serve. So when we talk about any governmental benefit program that's means tested, the way I think of them is they almost always fall into a 3-pronged test for eligibility. That means that they're usually a categorical requirement, that you have to meet certain categories to be eligible for the program. There's almost an income test, meaning that your income can't be above a certain level or you're not eligible for the program. Remember when we talked about SSI and how low the monthly income cap was for that if you're a single person? That if our income was $800 a month, we weren't going to be eligible for SSI and we weren't going to be eligible for community Medicaid. Well, there's almost always an income cap, and there's almost always a resource test for our means tested governmental benefit. Same thing for Medicaid. So with long-term care Medicaid, these income and resource tests are different than if we're trying to become eligible for SSI and community Medicaid. Remember, that cap was very low. It's about $782 a month in income. So for long-term care Medicaid, the categorical requirements are that you have to be a U.S. citizen or resident alien. you have to be, if we're trying to become eligible for long-term care benefits in Texas, we have to be a resident of Texas. And so it's a trick question. How long do we think we have to be eligible? How long do we think we have to be living in Texas or residing in Texas to be eligible for this long-term care benefit? Well, not very long. As long as we've got boots on the ground, we've been here one day, and we have the intent to remain here, then we can access Texas's Medicaid program and Texas's long-term care Medicaid program. And then we have to be over age 65, blind or disabled. We have to be in a Medicaid facility in a Medicaid bed if we're trying to access the long-term care program, or we have to be eligible for this community-based alternative program that pays for care at home. It pays for about 40 hours a week of a caregiver in the home. But while we could immediately become eligible for long-term care Medicaid if we meet all the categorical requirements, we just have to be in a Medicaid facility in a Medicaid bed and meet the categorical income and resource tests. To be eligible for that community-based alternative program, this program that pays for 40 hours a week of care at home, our name has to have come up on the waiting list for that program. So no wait to get into the nursing home and get on Medicaid there, but there is a wait to get on the program that pays for care in the community. And the current wait in Texas is about 2 years or 24 months to become eligible. And it varies. The legislature funds that program, and when the dollars run out, then there's a waiting list, and then the legislature funds again, and people move up on the waiting list. So if that's something that you need to know about, I can give you all, let's see, the phone number for that program. There is to get on the waiting list, because clients may have that or need that. It's called the STAR Plus waiver waiting list. It's also known as community-based alternative, and it pays for caregivers in the home. It's a very popular program. And again, there's that about a 2-year waiting list for your name to come up on the list, and you still have to meet all the eligibility criteria. But if you had a client who was interested in at least getting on the waiting list, then the phone number for that in the Houston area is 713-692-1635. 713-692-1635, and that does pay for care in the home. So that's, I know a lot of folks feel very strongly about, trying to care for their loved one at home as long as possible. This would be a program that would help them be able to do that. It doesn't pay for around the clock care, but it does give us at least about 40 hours a week of care in the home.
Can you repeat that phone number one more time so I can type it into the chat?
Yes, it's the STAR Plus Community Attendant Services Program. And the phone number for the interest list or the waiting list is 713-692-1635.
And it's STAR Plus
Community Attendant Services. Some people, I think the older program name was Community-Based Alternative to Nursing Home Care. So while we could jump on long-term care Medicaid and enter a nursing home, and there's not that waiting list, unfortunately, with this program that pays for care at home, it's not fully funded by the state, and it does build up this longer waiting list. But it doesn't hurt us if we've got someone who we think would qualify for it to go ahead and get on the waiting list. Now, when your name comes up to the top of the waiting list, you'll have to be ready to make sure that you meet the income test and the resource test to become eligible for the program. So just like any means tested benefit program, long-term care Medicaid in Texas, whether we're going into a nursing facility or whether we are, our name has come up on that community-based alternative list or STAR Plus Community Attendant Service list, we still have to meet the same 3 prongs of eligibility. So it's the categorical requirements, that we're a U.S. citizen, a Texas resident, over age 65, blind or disabled, in a Medicaid facility in a Medicaid bed, or our name has come up on that waiting list, and we have to have a medical necessity to be there. And that means that we need the daily care of a registered or licensed nurse. And then there's an income test and a resource test. So note that this type of Medicaid program has a much higher income limit. While SSI and Medicaid, community Medicaid, to be eligible for that program, it was around $782 a month. And as long as we had $1 of it, we hooked up to community Medicaid. With long-term care Medicaid, the income cap is $2,523 a month. So our client might have Social Security, and they might have pension, and they might have requirement of distributions, or they might have an oil royalty coming in, and all their income together, if it's below this cap, if it's a single person, or if it's a married couple, if the person going or the spouse going into the facility, their income is below $2,523 a month, then they're automatically income eligible for Medicaid. If it's a married couple and they're both trying to become eligible for long-term care benefits, it's double that amount. And Texas does go by the name on the check roll. So they look and see whose Social Security it is, whose pension it is, and they calculate it that way. Texas looks at gross income, not net income. So not what's deposited into the checking account, but rather what the gross income is before any deductions are made. So if we're over the income cap, there is a solve. There's a way to fix the income ineligibility, and that's with the use of a qualified income trust. It's also called a QIT or a Miller trust. It doesn't help us with resource issues. If we've got, $500,000 in the bank, it doesn't help us with resource eligibility. We don't put resources into this trust. It's just an income trust. So if our Social Security and pension is over the income cap, then the client could create a qualified income trust, place their income into the trust, and then it's distributed out for certain purposes, and then they can become income eligible for the nursing home benefit or for the community-based alternative benefit. It's an irrevocable trust. Only the person who's going into the facility, only their income is put into the trust, and just only certain distributions can be made. If there's any money left in this trust upon the death of the long-term care Medicaid beneficiary, there's a payback provision to the state of Texas, but if we've used it properly, we set up the trust, the income goes in, it's distributed out the same calendar month. The next month, the income goes in, it's distributed out the same calendar month. So we're not building up a residual balance in the account, that it's just used as a filtering account. Income goes in and it goes right back out. And so what this helps is it allows someone to become income eligible for long-term care Medicaid benefits when they're over the cap. It's not something that had to have been done 5 years ago or 10 years ago or 3 months ago. It's just a trust that we put in place the month that we're looking for eligibility. And generally the income is distributed like this. $60 goes to the person who's in the nursing facility. If they're in the nursing facility, they can keep paying their Medicare supplement premium to ARP or Blue Cross Blue Shield. And then an amount goes to their spouse, if they have a spouse at home, to bring them above poverty level. And then if there's any money left over, it goes to the nursing home as a copayment for their care. And then Medicaid picks up all the rest of the bill, the room and board, the doctor charges, the hospitalization, and any out-of-pocket drug expense. So Medicaid in a nursing facility is a very comprehensive program. It basically picks up all the care. You just owe the copayment of a portion of your income. If you're married, if you're single, basically all of your income goes to the nursing home as a copayment or applied income payment for your care. So that's the three-prong test. So the first prong were the categorical requirements. The second prong is this income test, but you can get around the income cap by putting the Miller Trust in place. And then the third prong is the resource limit. And Texas Medicaid has a very strict resource test. If you are single and you're trying to become eligible for Medicaid, you're only allowed to have $2,000 in countable resources. If you're a married couple and you're both becoming eligible for Medicaid in a facility at the same time, you're allowed to have $3,000 in countable resources. But if you can prove that you if it's a spousal case and maybe the husband's going into the nursing home and the wife is the healthy spouse who's still at home, if she can prove that she's impoverished, then many more assets can be saved for her as the impoverished spouse at home. In addition, Medicaid has a very generous definition of what an excluded resource is. So there's some resources that are not counted at all for eligibility purposes. And the first one would be a home. A home is a completely excluded resource. A vehicle of any value is completely excluded. Term life insurance is excluded. If you're over the age of 72, then your retirement accounts, your IRAs are completely excluded. Household goods, clothing, jewelry, furniture, all excluded. Prepaid funeral plans or burial plots are excluded. Oftentimes 529 plans can be excluded for grandchildren or great-grandchildren who are under the age of 21. So there's many assets that are excluded that Medicaid doesn't count at all for this type of eligibility. But then what would be counted? So money in bank accounts, non-brokerage accounts that are not IRAs. If you've got minerals that are producing or a second car, that would be a countable resource, or mutual funds or stocks or bonds or annuities. Oftentimes those are countable resources and they have to fit below those countable resource limits to be eligible. So here's a good list of all of our excluded resources. So in Texas, it is a quite generous list of excluded resources. Even burial plots are excluded. Money that's set aside for minors in uniform gifts to minors accounts. Livestock, farmland is often excluded. Homesteads, again, are excluded. Real property that's been placed for sale is also excluded. So if we have excess assets and we're trying to become eligible for this benefit, then they might have to be either converted to exempt resources, meaning we go buy our prepaid funeral plan or look for some other way to become eligible, or we use, if it's a married couple, we're looking for a way to argue that we need to preserve assets through a spousal impoverishment appeal, showing that we need assets to be preserved for the spouse at home so they can continue to live. So really just whatever strategy needs to fit the circumstances is generally what the elder law attorney is using to help preserve assets for the healthy spouse or preserve assets for the family. One thing that can't happen is we can't take our assets and give them away, because Medicaid does go back and they look back the past 5 years if we're trying to become eligible for a long-term care program, 3 years if we're trying to become eligible for SSI, to see if we've given any assets away or transferred anything for less than fair market value, or deeded a house away, or given a car away, or bought something for someone else. And those are all penalized. So we know that we can't just give our assets away and become eligible for the means tested governmental benefit that way. But just on the screen, there's some typical spin down options for a single person. Maybe they're buying that prepaid funeral plan, or they're paying off debt, or they're making home improvements, or they're prepaying expenses, or they're reimbursing family members for expenditures. Maybe they're trading in their existing vehicle and purchasing a newer vehicle, or payment of attorney's fees is definitely allowable when they're spending down. Those are all ways to look for categories to put those excess resources in. One thing that Medicaid in Texas does allow is they do allow, if we've got excess resources, to transfer assets to a disabled child or to a trust for that disabled child without a penalty period at all. And why do they do that? Well, in Texas, we want that disabled child to be well cared for. So that's something that they allow as far as a transfer. We're not going to penalize a transfer to a disabled child or to a trust for a disabled child. I did mention the transfer of assets penalty. So we can't just give our assets away and go apply for a means tested governmental benefit period. That 5-year look back period does apply to all 50 states. And then upon the death, let's skip over here. Upon the death of the Medicaid beneficiary, there's also in Texas a Medicaid estate recovery program, which means that when the Medicaid beneficiary passes, the state of Texas goes back and they look to see how much has been spent on that Medicaid beneficiary. And then the agency looks for a way to recoup the funds that were spent to put back into the state's coffer. And so that's called MERP, or the Medicaid Estate Recovery Program. It's applicable to anyone who's over age 55 who applies for Medicaid benefits after March 1st of 2005. So fine, we'll give you Medicaid while you're alive, but upon your death, the state of Texas is going to look for a way to get those funds back. And so sometimes clients come to elder law attorneys to look for a way to get around that estate recovery process. So we've talked a little bit about Medicare and the way to access Medicare. We've talked a little bit about Medicaid and the different Medicaid programs that are available, like SSI and community Medicaid, or long-term care Medicaid, whether it's nursing home or care at home with that community-based alternative program that has a waiting list. But you can see how, when you're giving advice to a particular client, that you kind of have to know what all the different benefit programs are and what the different eligibility criteria that's out there, so you can give them the best advice that they might need going forward to make the decisions that they can make. And I think really knowledge is power in this scenario, knowing what Medicaid benefits are out there, knowing what extra help might be out there for our clients, helping them understand the difference between an Advantage program or Medigap and traditional insurance. All those things are just ways to educate the community. So any questions about anything that we've talked about today?
There isn't anything in the chat, but my head is kind of spinning even just hearing all of that stuff,
Well,
it's almost like you need a map. Okay, here's this, and then you need to get this. If this is here, then this overlaps here, and then an arrow pointing back to go here, so it can kind of be seen at a glance. Otherwise, this is confusing. This
it's
is
a maze. It's a maze.
It is a maze to try and figure all of this stuff out. So the Medigap you were talking about, that's the donut, right? Is that the donut coverage?
Well, the Medigap insurance, no, that's the plan that supplements Part B. So the thing that we want our clients to know is that they enroll in Medicare, they turn 65. If they don't have, health insurance through their employer, then they're enrolling in Medicare. They've got Medicare Part A automatically. Medicare Part B, they're going to pay for out of their Social Security benefit typically. And then they're still not going to be fully insured. It's going to be fully insured. They're going to have to go to the open market or go to the government regulated plans and buy Medigap insurance. And the cost may be anywhere from $200 a month on the low end to $375 a month on the high end. And that Medigap plan, in addition to their Medicare Part A and Part B, if they have decided to be part of traditional Medicare, is what's going to get them fully insured. But even then, there's going to be co-payments and monthly premiums and lifetime limits and deductibles that they have to meet every single year. Then, if they decide that they want drug coverage, that's Medicare Part D. And that's where that donut hole comes into play. And it changes a little bit every year, but they'll pay a premium for Part D, and then they have to pay for so much prescriptions using their Part D plan, and they get a little bit better cost on their prescriptions depending on which Medicare Part D plan they're on and what their prescriptions are on. Then when they get to a certain level, then they're going to pay 100% of the cost while they're in the donut hole. But then when they've reached that other end of the donut hole and they're in the catastrophic coverage portion, then they're going to pay a very small amount for their prescriptions until the end of that calendar year. And then guess what?
Starts all over again.
Starts all over again.
Goodness. Okay, and just when you think your head is spinning, we're not quite done yet. So there's just wait, there's more. So Ms. Rose needs to cover the open enrollment and what goes into open enrollment and those decisions that need to be made. So you guys can just hang in there with us for a little while longer. This was a lot. This was a lot.
Yeah, I want to remind everyone, you really need to watch this presentation at least 3 times. And every time I'm watching these presentations, I'm learning something new. So specifically when it comes to Medicare, you guys need to really, really take your time and listen to it And if you have family members that are elderly, or if, you know, aunts and uncles, you need to have them sit down with you and watch it and understand what they're actually doing, because, or what they're actually signing up. Because I have a mother right now, and I'm really getting educated in the process, because now it's me making a lot of decisions for her. And so that's one of the most important things about all of us getting educated and knowing the complete process, because I'm still going, just like you, Nia, turning around circles and circles. So just keep watching them and watching the recordings, and come back and get educated a little bit more.
There's another quick question here in the chat. Does a life insurance policy count towards your assets for Medicaid? Not a burial, not a prepaid burial, but an actual life insurance policy.
What was the question?
Does life insurance policy count towards your assets for Medicaid?
Okay, so for Medicaid, they look at the cash value of a life insurance policy, and that part would be potentially accountable resource. But if it's term life insurance, so it's just, there's no cash value to it, then that is not accountable asset, that's an excluded asset. And there's also no claim against term life insurance. Very good question. So it can go to the family upon the death of the Medicaid beneficiary.
Because the whole life policy builds cash value, and the cash value is money that they can actually tap into or have access to if they needed to for whatever reason.
That's exactly right.
Okay, gotcha. All right, very good question. Okay, Ms. Rose, are you there? We hadn't.
Yes, I am.
All right, we're ready for you, Ms. Molly. That was a lot of information. Thank you so much. I hope you can stick around for the end when we get to the question and answer part. If you cannot, then please, I'll make sure that make sure that I put the right resource information into the chat for, was it the Star Plus? Did I put it in there right? Star Plus Community Attendance Service and the phone number. If not, I want to make sure that it's correct, so that way when I email the link of the recording, that I can also email this information out too. Okay. All right, Ms. Rose?
Yes.
Okay.
So I'll be sharing my screen.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
That's correct. Okay.
All right. Okay, let's get started. Medicare open enrollment. One of the things that I've learned about Medicare and Social Security and all these benefits, as when I started working, I didn't pay attention to it. I would get it every year, and it's called an earning statement. I don't know if y'all are aware of that, but it's you get that around your birthday. Before you would get through the mail, but now, you know, Social Security pretty much is going paperless. So now Social Security requires you to set up an account, online account with them. And if you do that, you can view your earning statement. So they track every time you file taxes, every time you pay taxes, you know, they track that information. But at the same time, they inform you about Medicare and about retirement. If you become disabled or you're considering retirement, you know, how much would you get if you were to retire at 62 or at 65 or at 70? So that's another way to find out what you're eligible for. And also, again, if you're disabled and you have children, you know, would your children, receive some type of a benefit as well? So, you know, that's just a little tip in trying to track, you know, what you're eligible for and what you can get. So I really advise and encourage you to set up an account with Social Security if you haven't done so yet. And as a matter of fact, they just updated the earnings statement, and they sent me an email last month that, you know, for me to view whenever I get a chance to. But that's just a little tip. So again, thank you for today's invite. I'll be covering Medicare open enrollment period. What Medicare open enrollment period is what's coming up, and we'll go into details about that. But again, my name is Rose Ortega. I'm the senior counselor here at the Area Agency on Aging. We are part of a nationwide federal grant program authorized by Older Americans Act of 9665. The City of Houston is the grantee agency for the Older Americans Act services for Harris County. So Harris County is the city-county partnership housed in the Houston Health Department. The way we call it is we're an agency within an agency. This is the department area that I work with, the benefits counseling program. So we have certified counselors that assist clients and their caregivers with understanding and applying for Medicare, Medicaid, and other public benefits to include appeals and advocacy. And today we'll be talking again about Medicare open enrollment. So this is your Medicare card. A couple of years ago, the Medicare card included your Social Security number. That's changed, you know, to protect your identification, your Social Security number. Now it's letters and numbers, okay? So this is how your Medicare card looks like. This is Medicare open enrollment. It starts October 15 and it ends December the 7th at midnight. And then any changes that you make during this enrollment period, your coverage will begin January 1st. What can you do on Medicare open enrollment? Well, you can change from original Medicare to a Medicare Advantage plan. And we just heard what a Medicare Advantage plan. You can change from a Medicare Advantage plan back to original Medicare. So if you have one, you didn't like it, and you just want to go back to original Medicare, you can do it during this period. Also, you can switch from one Advantage plan to another Medicare Advantage plan. If your friend or someone, conversing with your friends or family tells you, you know what, this plan is better than this plan, you should try this plan. And that's all you want to do is just switch from one plan to another plan. This is the time to do this. Also, you can switch from a Medicare Advantage plan that doesn't offer drug coverage or a Medicare Advantage plan. This type is usually recommended for retirees who have a retiree plan. So like federal employees, sometimes City of Houston employees, teachers, veterans, in a way, again, there is an option of a Medicare Advantage plan without drug coverage. Also, if you're not satisfied with your Medicare Advantage plan and you want to switch to original Medicare, again, this is a time to do that. And we'll get into, like, if you have Medicaid, I see Molly talked about Medicaid. If you have Medicaid or these Medicare cost sharing programs, that qualifies you for a special enrollment period, which means that you can change your Medicare Advantage plan or your drug coverage outside of the open enrollment period. So again, this is just a general. So again, you can switch from a Medicare Advantage plan that offers drug coverage to an Advantage plan that doesn't. You can join a Medicare drug plan. So we always remind people, yes, you can switch back to original Medicare, but a lot of times they forget to add a drug plan. So and that's what we call a standalone drug plan. You can switch from one drug plan to another. Many Medicare beneficiaries only have a prescription drug plan, and maybe that plan is not working for them, or there's been some changes. Molly just, she briefly talked about some of these changes. We found out that the formulary change, or they received a notice from their drug plan that the prescription they're taking is no longer covered by their plan, or maybe the pharmacy they're using is no longer accepting their insurance. So again, you can switch from one drug plan to another. Also, you can drop your coverage completely if you have other ways of having your prescriptions covered or paid. You can just drop it completely. So open enrollment period applies to those that are already receiving Medicare. Starting Medicare, doing open enrollment, we have people who are eligible for Medicare during this period. Then you'll need to shop for your options for 2022 and 2023. If you are starting Medicare due to your initial enrollment period, you're new to Medicare, or a special enrollment period, example, working past 65, you have different timelines to work with. And then also, if you plan on working past 65 and have credible coverage, open enrollment does not apply to you. You can delay your enrollment without a penalty. So these are the things that when we provide benefits counseling, we tell the beneficiary, let's look at the cost, look at your co-pays, look at the formulary. Does the plan that you have now will continue providing coverage for the medications that you need? Is the doctor and pharmacy in the network? If you're part of a Medicare Advantage plan, for example, an HMO, they require that you use their in-network doctors and in-network pharmacies. So you have to always check that when you receive your information or your package for your open enrollment. Make sure that if that's a requirement, that you use in-network. And a lot of times during the year, you may get information that your doctor, or during one of your appointments, or you may get a letter from your doctor saying, your doctor is no longer going to be accepting this insurance. So it's very important that you look at that information that you get during this period. Also, some of the Medicare Advantage plans, they offer extra benefits that original Medicare does not cover, like vision, hearing, dental, or over-the-counter drug benefit, transportation, and more. So many of our clients that call us, they're looking for example, dental. So many of the Medicare Advantage plans under an HMO or PPO option do offer these extra things, but they're not covered by Medicare. And that's one of the main things that we emphasize on. If you want these extras, they only come under a Medicare Advantage option. And also we tell clients that the coverage is limited. It's not covered 100%. So if people need dentures, plaques, or extractions done, they're still going to have to pay something. It's not going to be covered at 100%. There is an exception for those who qualify for Medicare and full Medicaid benefits. So those folks may get additional dental coverage and probably not have to pay much or at all if they have full Medicaid benefits. The over-the-counter drug benefit, I like that because many of us take vitamins, or they need incontinence supplies, things that are not covered by Medicare. So many of these Medicare Advantage plans now offer this extra over-the-counter benefit. They give you an allowance, and they give it to you quarterly. So this is cash, but of course, they give you to under a awards program, but you can order these items through a catalog that they give you. And that saves a lot of money because vitamins are expensive. And, incontinence supplies also are very expensive. And then also you can add like nutritional supplements. A lot of times where we have to take like insure products or certain products if we're diabetic. So those are some of the extra things that a Medicare Advantage plan under an HMO or PPO offer. And of course, the quality and customer service ratings is very important. Medicare or Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, CMS, and ourselves, when clients call us and say, you know what, I enrolled in this plan, they promised me this. They told me that they would provide me a doctor or a specialist that I need, and the doctors and specialists that they're giving me are too far away, or the plan is just not working for them. And if those issues are reported to Medicare, and we do encourage beneficiaries to report that, then all this information is rated. So the plans are rated. The maximum ratings they can get is what we call a 5-star rating. And we're fortunate that in Harris County, we do have some 5-star ratings. So what does that mean? Well, when open enrollment closes, and let's say you enroll in one of those plans that has a less than 5 rating, 5-star rating, then that qualifies for a special enrollment period. You can switch plans or change plans from your plan to a 5-star rating. And that, again, that's outside of the open enrollment. So I tell clients, make a list, of the things that you like or don't like about your plan. Find out about your doctors, find out about the pharmacy, the hospitals, and find about the extra benefits. Who's sometimes, through friends and conversation, they find out that some plans give you more vision services than this other plan, or they cover transportation. Not everybody covers these benefits, again, and that's where we encourage that you conduct a plan comparison. Where do you do this plan comparison? You do that on Medicare's website. It's medicare.gov, and it's very important. It's real easy. We do have benefits counselors that are available, and we kind of plan how to help a person conduct a plan comparison. One of the ways to do this is we tell people, prepare a list of your medications, prepare, doctor information and pharmacy information, so that can help you decide what plan to choose. So every year, and pretty much around this time, anybody who's already in a Medicare Advantage plan or prescription drug plan, they should be getting a package from their current plan. Okay, anytime between September and October, they'll be getting a package from these companies to provide you an update of what they're going to offer for 2023. A lot of times the members, Medicare beneficiaries, don't open those, and we do encourage you to open those because there are changes. The plans every year decide, do I want to keep this plan under my company? A lot of times they do away, if that plan did not work out for this service area for Harris County, they may close out that plan or under either an HMO or PPO or a drug plan. So look out for those notices as well. Also, if the plans get a very low ratings, in the previous years, we've received information about plans going down as low as 2. They've had it at 4, and also they went down to a 2 rating. So those are red flagged. So when we provide a plan comparison and a person says, I like this plan, immediately we're told, we tell them, you know what, this has a red flag, okay? And what happens with that red flag? Well, it doesn't allow us to enroll that person into that plan. So some of those, that's why it's very important that if you have issues with your Medicare health plan, that you conduct a plan comparison, look at your package, open up that package, look at your options, and find out which plan is best for you. Again, important Medicare dates. September and October, this is the time for you to review and compare. Review your plan, may change. Review any notices from your plan about changes for next year. Compare starting on October 1st. Use your Medicare tools to find the plan that meets your needs. So October 1st, Medicare releases information about the new companies, the new plans, either an HMO or PPO, or just a standalone drug plan for 2023. You can start making the changes starting October 15th. So again, this is the one time of year when all people with Medicare can make changes to their health and prescription drug plans for the next year. If you do that, your coverage will begin on January 1st. So as long as the plan gets your request by December the 7th, then that change will be effective January 1st. Decide, October 15th is the first day you can change your Medicare coverage for next year. This is what we call Medicare's savings program or cost sharing program. We also get a lot of calls from Medicare beneficiaries that they're having issues with the premiums. I heard Molly say Medicare will probably increase. We usually tell clients, we wait till Congress makes that decision. I remember my dad personally, when his Medicare was like $95. When I started working for the Area Agency on Aging, Medicare Part B premiums were only $45 a month, and now they're $170 a month. So if people are trying to find ways to help with premiums, these are the programs that are out there, or Medicare cost sharing. I'm pretty sure you've heard a lot of those, you've seen a lot of those commercials talking about getting money back into their Social Security checks. Well, this is one of the ways to do it if you qualify for these savings programs. And this is a Medicaid benefit, but these Medicaid benefits help Medicare beneficiaries with paying their premiums. And of course, if you qualify for a Medicare savings program, you automatically get Extra Help. Extra Help is a federal program that helps reduce the cost of or copays of your prescriptions. So if you're not eligible, you don't meet the income and resource guidelines for these state benefits, then you may be eligible for the benefit called Extra Help. And we can help with the application assistance for both of these programs. This is the Extra Help low-income subsidy program. It's the federal program, and again, it helps pay for some of these out-of-pocket costs. So, for example, for a 30-day, if you're taking generics, your medications would be less than $3.95. If you're taking a brand name, it would be less than $9. So that makes a difference in our pockets. So it also helps pay your Part D premium. So if you're enrolled in a plan that's $50, it would help reduce that $50, down to less than $35, around that much. Also, if you enrolled late in a prescription drug plan, or you made the wrong decision about Medicare Part D, it also eliminates that enrollment penalty. And of course, as I stated before, it gives you a special enrollment period. So if you forgot to enroll in a prescription drug plan, or you made a decision of not to enroll in a drug plan, or you thought you had credible coverage, if you qualify for extra help, this gives you a special enrollment period. These are the income guidelines and resource guidelines for the extra help. Again, if you see, the guidelines are a little bit higher than the Medicare savings programs. And look at the resources. You're allowed to have up to $15,000. A lot of times we save for a rainy day. You know, with all the disasters going on right now, those are our rainy days. So you're allowed to have some of those assets. Again, these are very high. So, and also wanted to let you know, if you are enrolled in a Medicaid, or you have SSI, or you qualify for a Medicare savings program, again, you automatically qualify for extra help, regardless of whether you meet the extra help limit. You automatically receive this benefit. But if you don't, you can apply. Social Security has an online application. It's real simple. It takes less than 30 minutes to apply. You're not required to submit any documents with it. It's just a simple application available on Social Security's website. And this is where we're at. Again, we're at, our call center is at 9250 Kirby. These are our operation hours and our intake line. And of course, we have email and website. We also encourage people to call 1-800-Medicare. If you call them first, or you call Social Security, they may refer you to our program, also known as HICAP, or State Health Insurance Assistance Program. But if we're not available, you know, we're just here Monday through Friday from 8 to 5, you can talk to a person 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, except some federal holidays. You can call 1-800-Medicare. Okay, that's it.
The links for those resources, are you able to send those to me so that I can include them in the email list when I send it out?
Sure.
Because I'm pretty sure that lots of folks will need that information about extra help.
Yeah.
There was another question here in the chat, but there was one that was waiting on Facebook that says, and I think this may be addressed to you, Ms. Miley, says that I hear you correctly. If you still work after 65 and you still have employer coverage, you do not have to enroll in Medicare?
Yes, well, you don't have to enroll in Medicare Part B if your employer continues to offer health insurance to you post 65. Not everyone's employer does that. So you need to check with your employer to make sure that the plan that you have at your company allows for that. Mm-hmm. You should still enroll in Medicare Part A when you turn 65, but you won't be using the Part B portion if you have coverage through your group employer. Now, with your group employer health insurance ends, you'll want to then immediately get on Medicare Part B, and you'll want to have a letter of creditable service showing that, or credible coverage showing that you had coverage during all that time period where you were covered under your group health insurance. Because if you turn 65 and you just got on Part A but didn't get on Part B, so you weren't paying the premium and you didn't have that group health insurance, there'll be a surcharge that you will then owe forever for your Part B premium, and that can be very, very expensive. So if your group health insurance ends post 65, you want to make sure that you've got that letter of credible coverage to show to Medicare, so then you can jump on Medicare Part B at that time and then get the Medigap insurance policy and Part D if that's what you want to do.
No, do you have to wait until you turn 65, or is it before? Like, how far before you turn 65 are you recommended to enroll?
I think it's 3 months prior. So when you're approaching 65 is when you want to start looking at that Medicare Part A coverage for sure.
Regardless if you're going to be utilizing it or not, make sure you still enroll. Gotcha. Okay. There was another question here in the chat, and then we're going to get to you, Ms. Rhonda. It says, I was on disability due to medical condition for 10 years, and now they rolled my disability to Social Security. I still have my employer's medical insurance for life. I have Blue Cross Blue Shield. I've heard that some people do not get Part B if they have their employer insurance. I have the part, and I believe that's what you were just covering. I have the Part A from the disability.
Right.
Okay. So there wasn't a question. Okay. Ms. Rhonda, you want to unmute yourself and go ahead and ask your question?
Yes, if you have SSDI, and I haven't met the 24 months yet, where do you go for insurance? How do you get insured?
In Texas, if you have SSDI and you've had it for 2 years, then you're automatically linked to Medicare.
Before 2 years,
And
you haven't met the 2 years yet.
If you haven't made the 2 years yet, then you can look to COBRA. If you had, insurance through an employer, it's very expensive, but you can look to COBRA, or you could be eligible for, coverage under the Affordable Care Act, but of course that's expensive as well. If you're in Harris County and none of those are available to you and you meet the criteria for it, you could try to become eligible for Harris County's indigent healthcare program. That might be another option, but you're right. There is that gap between becoming eligible for SSDI and becoming eligible for Medicare. There are at least 2 disease states that waive the 2-year requirement. ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease and end-stage kidney disease.
Thank you.
Okay. So again, this is a lot of information. So Ms. Rose, if there are people or seniors that are eligible do you have to be over the age of 60 or over the age of 65 to contact the Harris County Area Agency on Aging for some assistance with all of this?
For the services under the Area Agency on Aging is 60 and older and residents of Harris County. But those who are Medicare beneficiaries can call us to find out more about the Medicare programs. We'll talk to them no matter what age they are, if they're Medicare beneficiaries. Okay.
And for those people that could not see any information in the chat, could you give them the phone number that they would need to call for that?
Yes, it's 832-393-4301.
And this is the Harris County. Okay, I'm just putting the information in the chat as well.
Okay.
Okay. Were there any additional questions that anybody may have had? Again, I know this has been a lot of information kind of thrown at everybody all at one time, but please, this is your opportunity. We have a couple of minutes left if you have any other questions. And I'm kind of stalling out for a reason because I want to see if this person is going to respond to me on Facebook or not. But at any rate, so if you guys do find that you are in need, you're over the age of 65, then please reach out to the Harris County Area Agency on Aging, and they can help you, can assist you with kind of trying to decipher this maze called Medicare, Medicaid, and helping you to decipher, what exactly it is that you're going to need and what benefits and things like that that you may be eligible for, and where do you go to actually enroll. This is a lot. Please review this information with your relatives, with other loved ones, co-workers. Please share this information. My question would be, why is it so much stuff You know, why can't there be just a 1, 2, and 3, and that's it? Either you fall in this one, or this one. Why is it so, and I understand people don't, you don't want to create monopolies where somebody's controlling, everything and all plans, whatever. But this is a lot of information for a senior to try to have at the age of 60, 65, 70 years old, when you're trying to decipher all of this stuff. This is a lot. This is a whole lot. A lady put in the comment, she said she was thinking about moving to Oklahoma. Now she didn't think that that's not going to be a good idea. What's that going to do if she changes states? What does somebody do in that regards? If they have benefits they're eligible for here in Texas and they move to another state, do they have to then start this all over again? Does it have to transfer? What do you do?
Your Medicare benefits are the same in all 50 states.
Okay.
The Medicare Advantage plans could change from state to state. Yes. Your retirement Social Security and your Social Security disability insurance income should be the same from state to state. The Medicaid programs can change slightly because they're a federal program administered at the state level. They're about the same, but they could be a little bit different from state to state. And if you're eligible for SSI in Texas, you don't just automatically become SSI eligible in the next state, although you'll have to apply, you probably will still be eligible.
Yeah, that's true. I agree. If you qualify for a Medicare cost sharing in Texas and she moves to Oklahoma, she'll have to close her case in Texas and then reapply in Oklahoma.
Does it have to be closed before she moves?
Yes.
Or is it something she can start? So it won't overlap?
It has to close, because if not, then she's still considered a resident of Texas. Now, if she moves somewhere in Texas, she doesn't have to close it. It's only when you move to a different state.
Ms. Clark, I hope that helps. My goodness. Okay. Ms. Molly, Ms. Rose, thank you guys very much for providing this wealth of information that I know everybody found to be beneficial. So thank you for taking the time out this afternoon out of your busy schedules to come and provide this information to the community. This has been great. And I'm pretty sure that there's going to be even more questions afterwards that a lot more people are going to want. I look forward to getting the links or the resources that you had, Ms. Rose, for me to use. And Ms. Molly, I think you told me that the information that I did put into the chat was accurate, so I'll make sure that that information is included on the chat as well. So I mean in the email that I sent out as well. I just want to ask you guys if you could take just a moment following this presentation. You'll see on your screen asking you to complete a brief survey, just kind of giving us your input, your feedback on the programs that we currently offer and the information that we do share. Ms. Myra and I and our month of service partners plan and schedule our meetings according to the feedback that we receive from the community, as well as knowing what are the needs and what are the urgencies of what's impacting the community the most. So if there are any workshops or services that we are not currently talking about and you guys need more information about, please make sure that you include it in the chat. I am still working on finding the presenter for the what's it called, the reverse mortgage. That's been the biggest thing that most people have been calling and asking about. So I'm still working on trying to find the counselor to actually do that. But if there are any other presentations that we do not currently offer that you guys want, then please definitely let us know. And we certainly invite you guys to come back and visit us and tune in to other A Month of Service workshops that are scheduled throughout the month. This is your opportunity again to talk to the experts directly, that you can get firsthand information on what it is that you need and where to go for those kinds of resources. So Ms. Myra, you want to include something before we go?
Yeah, guys, remember one thing, when you're looking at your Advantage plans, make sure you're picking the right ones. Because a lot of times, a lot of seniors end up having more serious conditions, and some of the Advantage plans don't cover a lot of your illnesses, a lot of your medications. So make sure that when you're looking at your Medicare and your Advantage plans, because Nia and I get a lot of phone calls. Wait a minute, what do I do now that I have this illness and they don't cover this medicine, which I need? But you have a chance to make a change in your Advantage plan. You have it at the next year. So don't just stick to a plan every year and just be satisfied, even though it doesn't cover everything. So just get educated. And if you need help or need some assistance, you've got counselors, especially like you've got Miss Rose Ortega, sorry about that, and other organizations that can assist you here in Harris County and the city of Houston. Just don't stick with the same Advantage plan or whatever plan you choose to, and it's not giving you everything you need. Thanks, everybody.
Real quick, Ms. Rose, for those folks that are tuning in that watch us also from other areas outside of Harris County, this is Harris County Area Agency on Aging. Are there other county area agencies on aging that people can go to get this kind of service? Because we get a lot of folks from Brazoria County, from Montgomery, and from Liberty that tune in a lot too. Can they go to other agencies?
Yes, there's other agencies. We have a sister partner agency. It's called the Houston Galveston Area Agency on Aging. And we partner with them, and let me get their information.
And also they can call the state of Texas Area Agency on Aging, and they will be able to refer them to whatever agency is in their
Their phone number, their local phone number is 713 627 3200. And again, that's the Houston Galveston Area Agency on Aging. We cover the Harris County area, and they cover the surrounding 13 counties, I think it is.
Okay.
And we'll also get the state of Texas Area Agency on Aging, their phone number and the referral line. And I think you can also call 411 and they should be able to call,
Okay. All right, great. So I'll be sure to include that as part of the resource information as well. But again, Ms. Molly, Ms. Rose, thank you guys very much. You all have a wonderful remainder of your afternoon. Take care of yourselves, stay safe, stay cool out there. It's still extremely warm. And we hope to see you guys come back next month or next week, or when's the next one? What do we have next coming up? Tomorrow and Thursday, we've got our will clinics that are coming up, and turning 18. This is our eviction one, and then turning 18 and voting rights in Harris County. We've got coffee and conversation, and then maintaining and adding value to your home. So we have quite a few different workshops that are still left for this month. So we hope to see you guys later in the month. Take care and have a good remainder of your day. Thank you, Ms. D. We appreciate it. Ms. Kemp, thank you guys very much. Mr. Ross, thank you very much. You all have a wonderful day. Thank you, Ms. Rice.
Hey, Laura, how are you doing? Guys, it was great.
Thank you.